If you could predict an accident, would you try to reverse it? If you can't stop it, what will you do? Today we will be with the male lead, experiencing the pleasure of knowing the future. In 1959, a girl named Lucy looked up at the sun. Her face was calm. She couldn't even hear Teacher Taylor's voice. Today is the founding day of the school. Principal conducts a meaningful activity. She asked the students to imagine the future 50 years later, then draw it on paper. 50 years from now there will be a bunch of kids like them. Opening the time box, most children draw robots, rockets, cars, only Lucy is different. The girl's paper is dense with numbers. The expression was extremely tense. It seemed that these numbers were extremely important. During the locking ceremony of the time box, all happily clapped. Only Lucy holds a balloon standing in a corner. That night, Lucy suddenly disappeared. When the teacher found her, her hand was scratched and bleeding. On the door are blood numbers. Lucy was extremely frightened. She begged someone not to speak in her ear. Forgive her. 50 years later, scientist John is in the courtyard observing the sky. He's a single dad. His son Caleb is in elementary school. The relationship between the two is very good. It's just that Caleb doesn't accept his mother's death. He always thought there was a heaven. The next day, after finishing his lecture, John talked to his good friend Phil. Phil is extremely interested in John's life. He wants to introduce his sister to him, but John seems to have a problem. Just said he will think, then rushed to attend the 50th anniversary of the founding of his son's school. This ceremony has a special part, which is to take out the time box that was buried when the school was founded. Teacher Taylor that year now has white hair. The kids at that time, now over 50 years old, everyone takes out the time box and then divides it among the kids. This is a gift from 50 years ago. Caleb also received one, but his gift is very special. Inside there are no paintings, only unravel numbers. Caleb brought the paper home. After watching, accidentally aimed for some numbers. Based on the sensibility of a scientist, he felt that the sequence of numbers seemed special, so he chose a sequence of numbers to write on the board. After breaking the solution, he discovered these numbers represent that date. He looked up that date on Google. Exploding event appeared, along with the victims. He looked at the number in his hand and couldn't believe it. The number of deaths matches the number after the date. This is something from 50 years ago. The incident happened a few years ago. Also, these numbers can predict accidents. John hastily studied all the numbers. All numbers, dates, incidents, deaths, completely correspond, even though there are numbers that can't be explained. But these are enough to amaze him, because science cannot explain this phenomenon. The next day, he told Phil, saying that tomorrow there will be an accident that will kill 81 people. But Phil did not believe it, and mocked John, who is a scientist who can believe in myths, having lost his faith. John is so excited because his wife also died in an accident. These series of numbers 50 years ago can predict the accident. Seeing that Phil didn't believe it, John decided to investigate the truth about those numbers himself. He went to Teacher Taylor, verified that these numbers were written by Lucy. Moreover, at that time Lucy was also very unusual. He wanted to find Lucy to talk to, but unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. John wants to contact the employee to take out the time box, but the school disagreed. It was at this moment that he saw Caleb was talking to a stranger in the yard. He rushed out to see Caleb was back. There is also a black stone in his hand that the other man gave. That morning, John always watched the news. I want to know if this sequence of numbers works or not. Were there any accidents that resulted in 81 deaths? But he watched for a long time. Also no related news. Because of the alcohol, he fell asleep. When he woke up, it was raining outside. He had to go to school to pick up his son, but the heavy rain caused the road to be blocked. The traffic jam made him impatient. It was at this moment that he looked at his coordinates very familiarly. He quickly opened the paper. The coordinates are the unsolved sequence of numbers. The coordinates you're standing at is where the accident happened. John quickly got out of the car to find out. It turned out that a gasoline tanker overturned, causing a traffic jam, but no one was injured. Just when John was worried about the gas truck exploding, the policeman looked behind him, showing fear. John quickly turned around. A plane flew by, swerving across the main road. Broken in the heart of the city, John rushed to save. He used all his strength to pull out the living people in there, but for most people, he is powerless. John returned home in a daze. His sister took his son home. Right now, he doesn't want to do or say anything. He just wants to sleep. The number of people in distress was quickly announced. Just round 81 people. Phil drove to John's house. This time I finally believe. But Phil said he must stay away from these coordinates, because today he almost died. He didn't want Caleb to be an orphan, but there are still 2 accidents that haven't happened yet. It was a while ago that John remembered his wife's accident. He wanted to change the impending accident. That night, Caleb had a dream. He dreamed that the mysterious person pointed out the door. The outside world is engulfed in flames, all burned. The whole world is in darkness. John heard Caleb cry. rushing to comfort his son, but at this moment, he noticed someone standing in the yard. He chased after him with an axe, but the man was gone. He just shouted, warning the person not to show up. The next day, he went to find Lucy's daughter to find out. He brought his son after, then successfully started a conversation. Diana is a single mother. After learning that John is a single father, she quickly made a good impression, but John didn't come for love. He said Lucy's prediction to Diana, say that tomorrow 170 people will die. He wants to learn about Lucy, but Diana thought he was crazy, drove away with her daughter. John decided to go and prevent the accident from happening. He saw an upcoming terrorist incident on the news. He took the gun, asked his sister to take care of Caleb, then rushed to New York. After arriving at the location coordinates, he observed the surrounding people, obviously reported to the police, but they thought it was just a prank, didn't blockade and protect this place. He went to the subway station, suddenly saw a sneaky person, he quickly chased, the other man ran away madly. John used all his strength to lock him in the back room, but he's just a thief, not a terrorist. At this moment, the opposite tram suddenly lost its direction and was approaching at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. John quickly told everyone to get out of here, but all too late, the tram lost control and crashed into John's train, then crashed through the train station. Countless people lost their lives. The death toll has just turned 170. When John returned home, Diana was waiting at the door. Now she also believes in her mother's prophecy, but the more she worried, her mother prophesied that she would die in a few days. She didn't believe that anyone could predict her future, but reality unfolds before your eyes. John couldn't do anything either, since the last prophecy has no coordinates, only 2 letters EE. With Diana's help, the two go to Lucy's old house. They found a picture of people bowing to the sun here, also discovered a black pebble in her bedroom, along with a wooden board engraved with the words, everyone else. Turns out, EE means everyone. This accident has no location, no death toll, because this accident will kill everyone. It was at this moment that John heard his son constantly honking the horn. The 2 people rushed to check. It was the mysterious people again. John chased after him with a gun, but the mystic suddenly opened his mouth to glow, causing him to be dazzled. When he restored his eyesight, he disappeared. John and Diana stay together. They were all under the supervision of a mystical person. This makes them a little scared, but more terrible as, according to Lucy's prophecy, tomorrow will be the end of the world, and they have no way to deal with it. The next day, John saw Abby holding a prostration picture to draw. He saw these people worshipping the sun and suddenly thought of something. He rushed to the laboratory, through data analysis, finally determined, not long ago, people discovered heat data beyond imagination. It's not a system crash, it's really the end of the world. When the huge heat covers the earth, all will be ashes, the sun will rise, everything will be destroyed. John tells Phil to accept the truth, go home to his wife and children. Diana suggested, perhaps hiding in a cave or underground. Maybe there was hope. John rushes home to pack up his things, prepare backup supplies. No one knows if it will be possible to continue living, how long the accident will continue. It was at this moment that John discovered Caleb frantically carving numbers on the table. Reminds me of Lucy carving a number on a wooden door. He knows, these numbers must be very important. He went to school to take down the door, scrape off the new paint, see what it was, but Diana thinks they should quickly hide in the cave. She saw that John refused to go, so she drove Caleb and Abby away. Through the data on the door, John determines the coordinates. When he ran out, Diana had left with the children. She took them to the gas station. At this time the government has announced the news of the coming disaster. They can only suggest that everyone hide underground, because there is no better way. Caleb called John on a payphone, announcing his location. Diana persisted in her thoughts again. Although John kept insisting, hiding underground won't work. It was at this moment that the mystic drove Abby and Caleb away. Diana didn't know what to do. She just had to chase, because she was going too fast. She was hit by a truck and died at the scene. John ran to the scene of the incident, only to see that Diana could not be saved. Not knowing where the children were, he drove to Lucy's house. Here are the coordinates you found. Spotted the mystic here. Also saw Caleb and Abby holding a rabbit. Turns out they are aliens. The purpose of coming to Earth is to collect lives, to avoid being destroyed by disaster. But only the chosen ones, only able to survive. John is not on the selected list. Caleb didn't want to leave his dad. John shows, their hearts are always together. He told Caleb to take good care of Abby, because they are man's last hope. Aliens take Caleb and Abby away. The solar storm is also approaching the Earth. Everyone fell into panic. John looks at everything. Everything seems to have no meaning. In the last moment of life, he drove home, hugged his parents and sister, waiting for death to come. At the end of the movie, the whole Earth was swallowed up by the sea of fire. Caleb and Abby were transported to a peaceful place by aliens. When the apocalypse comes, all efforts, hatred, possession, are meaningless. The only thing you can do is cherish the present, enjoy the beautiful life, do what you like.